From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Montana's Fish and Wildlife Commission set to discuss wolf hunting in zones near Yellowstone National Park. When that will happen and the latest wolf kill numbers just ahead.
I'm Joe St. George in Del Mar, California. You may not think these railroad tracks impact you, but they do. We explain why this eroding cliff is to blame, how it may impact the economy, and why fixing infrastructure is still complicated in our country.
6:31, Chet Lehman, Matt Elwell with you here, live shot into Butte, thanks to our friends at Community Hospital of Anaconda. Not a bad morning all in all. It is brisk out there, to say the least, but fairly calm, no moisture, so all in all, not too bad.
I can handle days like this. It is cold, just a light wind in Butte making a big difference. Man, temperature right now is sitting right below zero, 1 below, in fact, in the mining city, 17 in Belgrade. I looked at the temperature earlier. It was like 24. It's definitely cooler than that now out on the weather patio. Temperatures will remain pretty crisp and cool to start the morning. We'll see the skies try to clear as you get into the afternoon. Daytime highs should be around the freezing mark. We've got several marvelous days to spend outside as temperatures continue to climb, but we do have more weather on the way. We'll look at that. Cool video to show you. That's all coming up in just a little bit.
22.
Is it? Okay.
That's why I just checked.
I'm glad you checked that.
Happy to help you out. 6:32, our top story this half hour, Montana Fish and Wildlife Commission holding a special meeting tomorrow to review wolf hunting and trapping seasons in Region 3 near Yellowstone National Park. Now, under rules adopted by the commission, quotas are reviewed after harvest thresholds are reached in each state hunting region. As of this morning, 75 wolves have been killed in Region 3. The threshold is 82. 20 wolves have now been taken in 2 wildlife managed units that border Yellowstone National Park. In the past 10 years, no more than 7 wolves have been taken from those units. This is sparking protests from wolf watching guides and environmental groups. Yellowstone Park Superintendent Cam Shawley wrote Governor Greg Gianforte asking wolf hunting to be stopped for the season on the border of the park. Now, the commission meeting is set for 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. A link to the streamed meeting can be can be found on the FWP homepage. Other news, Montana's only congressman, Republican Matt Rosendale, paid his filing fee yesterday to run for re-election this year. Rosendale running in the new Eastern Montana district, which includes most of eastern and central Montana, the cities of Billings, Helena, and Great Falls. Now, in a recent interview with MTN News, Rosendale said if he's re-elected, he'll continue to focus on things like veterans care, natural resource development, and immigration. Rosendale has voted no on all of President Biden's major initiatives this year. So far, the only other candidates officially in the race, 2 political unknowns, Democrat Skylar Williams of Billings and Republican James Boyette of Bozeman. Democrat Jack Ballard of Red Lodge has been the most visible opponent campaigning against Rosendale, expected to file later. The new district is thought to lean heavily Republican. Also, President Joe Biden nominating Jesse Laslovich to serve as the U.S. Attorney for Montana. Laslovich is currently the Regional Vice President for the Sisters of Charity of Leavenworth Health, Montana-Wyoming region. He previously served as a state legislator between 2001 and 2010. Laslovich is from Anaconda and a graduate of the University of Montana School of Law. Now, in the past, he has also served as Chief Legal Counsel in the Office of Montana Commissioner of Securities and Insurance and as Special Assistant United States Attorney in the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Montana. In 2016, he ran for Montana Commissioner of Securities and Insurance, but lost to current U.S. Representative Matt Rosendale. Well, as we mentioned to you yesterday, Montana currently enjoying a record low unemployment rate, but while the current statewide unemployment rate is around 2.5%, percentage of adults actively working or looking for a job is falling. It means about 13,000 fewer Montanans are in the labor force than we had pre-pandemic rates had held. Now, meantime, Montana Bureau of Business and Economic Research estimates housing prices have increased across the nation by about 20%. In many areas of Montana, it's even higher than that. Large parts of Gallatin and Flathead counties are seeing housing price growth at or above 30%. Now, the BBER will hold its annual Economic Outlook Seminar in Bozeman on February 2nd. That's next Wednesday at the Commons near Baxter and Love. You can sign up to attend at the BBER homepage. New bipartisan infrastructure law promises to fix a lot of the country's transportation issues from mass transit to highways and bridges right here in our state. But as our Joe St. George shows us, the law passed by Congress doesn't guarantee the federal money will come in. In many cases, local and state governments will have to produce some of the cash to get access to that big pot of money in Washington.
At first glance, these may be some of the most picturesque train tracks in the entire country. And you may also think the trains that run here have no impact on your life.
1 in every 10 cars sold in the United States comes along this track.
Well, Sharon Humphreys is here to tell you why you're wrong. She's a civil engineer in San Diego County, California, and says when she looks at these tracks, she doesn't see the beautiful Pacific Ocean. She sees a disaster waiting to happen.
The ocean, the wave action, the rain is eroding the cliffs next to the track.
Humphreys estimates the cliff is losing about 1 to 2 feet a year, and while they're currently stabilized and safe, the inevitable will happen.
So we're going to be moving these tracks off of the bluff.
You might think it's easy for local governments to just move these tracks. After all, these cliffs are posing a risk. And Congress did pass an infrastructure law, right? Well, not so fast.
Yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Hassan Igrata is the CEO of SANDAG, a government organization that oversees transportation projects in this part of the country. He says it will cost billions to create a new tunnel and move the tracks inland. And while the new infrastructure law will likely provide some funding, in order to get the money, his region will need to come up with some of the cash too.
I have not heard of one single project that was fully funded by the federal government.
So what does that mean? It means local and state governments around the U.S. will need to use their own money, too, to get big infrastructure projects done. And if leaders don't have it, new elections or political debates will need to take place to increase things like sales taxes.
We're going to the voters. If they say nay, none of this will happen.
Everywhere in the country, though, there are critics of tax hikes.
The voters have been deceived.
Carl DeMeo with Reform California is the local critic here. He says voters nationwide aren't just going to give their local leaders a blank check without explaining where past tax hikes have gone. Transparency is needed. Hassan says big projects are needed. In Del Mar, California, I'm Joe St. George.
6:38 now. This week we have once again teamed up with the News Literacy Foundation for News Literacy Week. So our effort aimed at shining a light on better information consumption and sharing. Part of that includes spotting fake news and misinformation. Nasha Karashi looks at the risk of weaponizing information.
Consuming information in a digital echo chamber can make it easier to fall prey to misinformation and conspiracy.
People need to be aware, just as aware, of their own biases when they consume information.
Helen Lee Bouygues is the president of the Reboot Foundation, an organization focused on critical thinking and combating misinformation. She says their research shows that while 95% of people believe they're adept at identifying fake news, only 1% of them use tools to verify the information they're consuming.
There's a problem in the link between people understanding that social media is going to charge you up, and yet people feel very comfortable that they're very capable of identifying fake news.
Two examples she points to are the January 6th insurrection and continued misinformation about coronavirus and vaccines. But she says anyone can be at risk.
Our studies have shown that heavier use of social media, be it right-leaning or left-leaning, you're equally susceptible to fake news.
A recent study found that between August 2020 and January 2021, misinformation on Facebook got 6 times the number of likes, shares, and interactions on the platform as did trustworthy news sources.
There was a rumor that spread a lot on Twitter and other places that the CEO of Pfizer had actually chosen to not be vaccinated. And you can imagine how that would really resonate with people. What does that tell us about the safety of it? And that is, of course, completely false.
Craig Silverman is a journalist who's been reporting on online rumors, disinformation, and media manipulation for more than a decade. He's the author of a series of handbooks on information verification that are available for free online. Healthy skepticism, he says, is key.
When somebody has sent you something, read it. Notice your reaction to it, whether you're instantly accepting or rejecting it. Take a moment and ask yourself, well, where did this come from?
Silverman says there are tools you can use to verify, for example, the sources of images that could be used inaccurately.
You can either point to the address of an image online or upload an image to tools like Google Reverse Image Search, or a tool like TinEye or Yandex Image Search, and it will actually show you all the other places online that that image has been found in their database.
Stopping or at least slowing the spread of false and misleading information is a responsibility experts say we all must shoulder.
It's not about having to learn all these new techniques. It's about actually just being conscious of the information you're consuming and then passing on.
I'm Usher Qureshi reporting.
Now, as part of National News Literacy Week, MT invites you to a Facebook Live event, Stopping the Flood of Misinformation. From the economy to politics and COVID-19, it can be difficult to separate fact from fiction. How can you verify sources? What can you believe on social media? Our panel of experts will help you tackle that and more. Tonight, 6:30 on the KBZK or KXLF Facebook page or with the KBZK streaming app for Roku and other devices.